What's up, everybody? It's your boy Norik, Thascool, and this is another installment of the Soundflick podcast.
Soundflick pod.
I got my awesome co-stars with me. Over to my right, I believe.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and go next.
Yeah, just go ahead.
Skywalker Mike here. Here in the quarantine. Haven't got a haircut. I think it's been like 3 years already.
Bruh. What's good, guys? It's your boy, Young Flacco, big chillin'. You know how it is. No haircut gang. I've always measured that my hair's too long when I'm able to pull the sides. That's when I know it's time for a cut.
Yeah,
I feel it. I haven't had a haircut either. My hair is underneath this head wrap, and yeah, it's pretty wild. But it feels like
saving.
Oh, I'm saving a bunch on my car insurance by switching to Geico. But it's just so crazy. It feels like it's like March 72nd.
Honestly, yeah. I feel like people tell me it's May. It's like, damn, like
yeah.
April just came and went. Like it was just
Gone.
like, all right, later.
Gone. Yeah, man. We pretty much it goes from March to fall. It's gonna go from March to fall. But we are episode 25 of the Soundflick podcast, and we have a pretty dope episode today.
Different.
A little bit different, watching a couple classics, I would say. One is extra classic, and the other is about 10 years old. And we are going to be talking about Tron and the Tron series.
Yes.
The classic Tron that came out and Tron Legacy as well that came out. And we have to talk about our Netflix party. And then, you're going to get the same old updates from your boys, from them Soundflick boys. No Soundflick. Nobody goes on that website anymore. Nah, bro. We got Jam Cam beats, bro. We don't need that. We don't need that no more.
We're blessed enough to have that, but people still, you already know.
That's
true. Not everybody's blessed enough for that. So I feel you. But guys, this was like really fun. This is our segment called Original versus Remake.
Yeah.
And we're gonna be doing a lot more of these just as far as the quarantine is concerned. Since we're unable to see movies and new movies in theaters, we thought it'd be pretty cool to start arranging the movies that we talk about in different segments. And this segment is Original versus Remake. Tron Legacy.
Yeah. I really enjoyed watching. I really enjoyed watching these, surprisingly, because I usually dislike retro movies because I think I'm spoiled to the fact that I have like CGI and 3 dimensions.
Yeah. Except on your webcam, but yeah.
I'm gonna need you to chill. Look, 2016 Sincere was on a budget. Black Friday came in clutch. My baby's been holding me down.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the movie, honestly, like, I don't remember Tron, like the 2010 version being as exciting. I think it's because I saw the first one and then the second one, because I had never seen the first one at all. So like the second was still kind of like, it was new to me. I didn't know the storyline. I didn't know why Flynn was in the grid or anything. I was just like, oh, his dad got lost, then that's why he's in the grid. But
yeah, I think it would be cool to talk about about the original first, and then we go into the remake.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
I never seen the original. I saw the remake when it came out in theaters, and that was actually a wonderful movie going experience that I had. Shout out to IMAX and Daft Punk for providing the soundtrack. That
soundtrack is so fire.
It was really cool. It was crazy. It was so crazy. I remember the feeling, and we'll get into that. But popping in Tron 1 was like, I don't know, I was excited, man. I was like, whoa, like I'm watching this, because I wouldn't watch this movie if we weren't potting about it, to be like 100%.
Yeah.
Right.
Same.
Because like how Sincere was saying, like things aren't in HD. It was old. It was goofy. I was like laughing at it. Like as I was watching, I was like, this is crazy. And well, first of all, let me just give the audience some specs on Tron. Tron came out in 1982.
Mm-hmm.
It is about a computer hacker who is abducted into the digital world and forced to participate in kind of like a gladiator match, like gladiator games, where his only chance of escape is to help of a heroic security program that another guy who works for the company Encom, which is, you know, the world that they're kind of in. Another guy has been wanting to create this security program, and you guessed it, that security program is known as Tron.
Tron. Yeah.
Your boy Tron.
Actually, when I started watching this first one, I didn't know Tron was not. I thought like Jeff Bridges was Tron.
Yeah.
Because even in the second one, you don't really even know who Tron is till like, you know, later. But when I found out who Tron was, like, it was weird. Like he was the main character or like the main focal point of the movie, but not really.
It's kind of underwhelming, right?
Oh, yeah, you might want to turn down your mic a little bit.
My bad. No, you're good. No, but for me, it was kind of underwhelming as far as like Tron goes.
Yeah, because I
kind of just like thrown in.
Yeah, I thought the whole movie was gonna be like about Tron, but I mean, he still had a very big, significant role in the first one. Smaller role in the second one, but
it could have been called Flynn. Like the movie could have just been called Flynn
easily.
And you know, it's interesting because the game that they're like playing is called Space Paranoids, and like it doesn't really have anything to do with space either.
Right.
And I thought that was interesting. It's like it's like digital paranoids, or you're in like computer paranoids or something like that.
Yeah. Well, but anyways, the villain too in the first one, it's
which one? We had two. We had Sark and
Sark isn't really much of a villain. He's kind of like a wannabe, but I'm talking about the MCP. Yeah, he's a soldier. It's crazy how like in this system, all the programs and stuff, they're literally living in their own world. They have their own life, their own thinking like process, you know, but they don't really know what's going on in the real world, you know.
Yeah.
They actually, I mean, there's a lot of programs that are actually against users, which is humans. So when a human comes into the grid, they're called users, and everybody else is a program. So
yeah, and it was interesting because in the first movie, watching them not really understand what a user is, it almost made me feel like just like primitive versions of us. Like it had a lot of religious overtones to it. You know, you have like this creator that's doing all of this stuff, but these people don't really have like an idea of how they work, whether it's true or not, you know, what's going on. And then you have the master control, which is like has so much information and in is direct contact with users or with the people who've created the program. And it kind of just reminds me of like, you know, when humans create something and, you know, it just kind of backfires on us or we can't answer the questions that they have after a certain point, you know?
Yeah, it felt very artificial intelligence like, you know, like the MCP just grew a mind of its own, and within it like all these programs starting to get their own minds and thus creating the grid, you know. So yeah, it's pretty crazy how the MCP right off the bat is kind of like really in control when the in real life Sark, Ed Dillinger, Dillinger, is like talking to the MCP, and the MCP's like, he's like, all right, I'm ready to get out of here. Help me like get this. He who wants to learn how to speak Chinese so he can hack into the Chinese database, and he already hacked into the Kremlin and the Pentagon. This thing was like so close to getting out. Like it just probably needed like another day and it would have been out
for sure. And like you can see like Dillinger was just using it to get business knowledge. You know, and the MCP was kind of like, well, I'm picking up all this extra information. Like, what else can I pick up and what else can I use? And I thought it was interesting that Dillinger's likeness was used as Stark, and the guy who created Tron, his likeness was used as Tron. And that guy who created Tron wasn't Kevin Flynn. It was Alan. And I thought that was for now that I think about it, for it being in 1982 and for them trying to make this movie seem real and not use CGI, they had to make them look like that in order to actually use the actors in the movie. You know what I mean? So like, it was kind of genius. While I was looking at it, I was like, dang, they really got like around that. They got around that issue of, using the actors and using them in this digital space with all the foam. Like, they got like foam and cardboard. It seemed like their costumes were like super trash.
Yeah, no, honestly, like all that work, all the light work and all that, it looked funny. I guess looking at it from 2020.
Yeah.
What is that, 40 years?
It's about to be 40 years.
Yeah.
40 years?
Close to it.
So like, I think it's just pretty crazy. And then because on Disney Plus, I guess it's remastered. So when you go to the grid, everything looks weird, wonky, kind of like it just looks old and grainy. But then when it goes back to the real world, it looks really good.
Yeah.
Like, they remastered that part really good to the point where I was like, damn, this looks like it could have came out this year. And then you go back to the grid and it's like, no.
Yeah, you're like, oh, no. And another thing that I thought was interesting was I didn't realize that the particle machine
the beam
the beam was something like separate. Like it was something that was just worked on separately. And them trying to digitize something, and then the MCP realizing like, oh, I can use that to do whatever I want. Like that's my gateway into this world, because that technology is directly a part of me. And it's taking matter that's in the real world and bringing it and digitizing it.
Yeah. And it's just really cool and crazy. It's the beam itself. I just want to know what is it originally for? Like, why did they build it in the first place? Did they know they could go to the grid, or
no?
Is it for gaming? Like
the older guy, I think his name was Dumont. Is that like he went by? He went by Dumont, I think, in the grid.
In the grid, yeah.
But when he was, and it's interesting, I feel like they just did that because that's who he represented in real life, but I don't think he actually did that. Like, it was cool seeing the imprint of the people who invested and who built the grid, like, manifest themselves into the grid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think that they did that on purpose. I just think that it was for narrative speaking, so that we can understand who these people are in relation to the people outside.
Yeah.
And it was like a whole separate project. They were just talking about, I mean, almost like teleportation. That's all it really was. It was just like deconstructing the atoms and then reconstructing the atoms in a separate location. And when they did the orange test and it was successful, I think he said something. It was like early on in the movie, like that was like the tagline of like what the movie meant. And he was just like, oh yeah, computers like doing more than what we can do, and it was like in the 80s, and you think of like 1984 and you think of like all these other things, like people were really scared that technology was going to take over and like really start controlling us because of all the data that it can amass,
Right.
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting, and I was like, oh, okay, that's the message. That guy, his point in the movie is to deliver the message.
Yeah.
Like the overarching message of what's going on.
So pretty much getting to the beam before that, I kind of want to give a little backstory on Flynn. Pretty much the mastermind behind NCOM and why they got so popular with their games is because he's the one who designed games like Space Paranoids. What was the other one?
Light Cycle.
Yeah, the Light Cycle game. And pretty much that guy, Ed Dillinger, took his ideas and sold it to the company and was like, hey, I made this. And then Flynn got mad, or he just left, and
he like locked him out, like basically he was like another like another. Well, even before that, like when they were young together, I guess youngish, you know, Dillinger was obviously probably about 10 years older or so, and they were both programmers, and Flynn was like a prodigy over there, you know, and Dillinger was like the dude before Flynn got there. So he was jealous, obviously, and took his designs, took his intellectual property, took his creativity, and was like, oh, I'm going to say that it's from me. And I think he got Flynn fired also, you know?
I think so. Yeah.
In order to complete that.
After that, Flynn was pretty much trying to do everything in his power to try to get evidence or dirt on, you know, him being the creator, but he couldn't, you know, because the MCP was in control and he couldn't get past that and such. So, because in the beginning of the movie, it kind of just starts like there's no really.
I was going to mention that. Yeah,
it kind of just jumps in.
It just kind of starts, and he's already like trying to hack the program, and I'm just like, okay, so did I
what's happening? Yeah, you literally don't know what's going on until like 15 minutes into the movie, and you realize
where it kind of all connects, and you're like, oh
yeah, okay, all right, this is what's going on. But I was really surprised at that. Like the movie just started and then the movie just ended. You know, like there was no like wrap up of the narrative. It just kind of went.
They could have easily like inserted a narrator there to narrate like what's about to happen or what they're in the middle of, but no, like build them, no narration, no crazy like shot. It's just like we're in.
Here we go. And I thought what was so cool about that. Well, no, I wouldn't say what was so cool about it. You kind of realize what's cool about it when you watch the second one, but while I was watching, it just made me think like people were really okay with whatever was being shown to them in the movies at that time. You know, they were so invested in a movie being created in the first place that they didn't like the marketing didn't need to help someone kind of understand. They were just in it for the ride. And when it started and Flynn had Clue already, I was like, oh, this is genius. Because when you realize what's going to happen in the remake, and how Clue only lasted maybe like 10 minutes into the film and got lost, I was like, yo, this is genius for them to use this part of the movie, this little 10-minute part of the movie, and expand on it so much to make a second movie.
Yeah, no, that is true. Like I didn't pick that up till you because of how short
it was. So short. It was super short on how Clue was there. And the idea of Flynn making somebody, it kind of introduced the idea of Flynn making somebody and imprinting his likeness onto it, you know?
Yeah.
It was weird. I don't know if you guys kind of felt the same way, but like a big takeaway for me was like, I think they did a bad job at differentiating the two, like from the real world to the grid. At least for me, like I couldn't tell if someone's in the grid already, but it's dope. It's a dope concept because it's basically like Mike said, like it's just another world and they're already doing all this other than the fact that everything's different colors. But for me, it was a trip, but
Now there was some like continuity errors here and there, but overall like the story, it was understood somewhat, you know. So far the MCP just wants to break out, Flynn just wants to get his job back and he just wants to get his credit, pretty much. Credit where it's due. And
I mean he could have gotten millions. You know, millions of dollars, and he just had the arcade. That's some other psychological like that's crazy for you to have an arcade filled with your ideas, but that you don't own anymore. Like I wouldn't have an arcade at all. I'd be like, fuck the arcade, fuck anybody who plays this game. Like I'm not trying to hear it. But like he was down.
It kind of showed like him being humble, but at the same time he just wanted what was his back. But at the same time he was like, you know what, I know these aren't mine, but it's gonna make me some money for now. And then later on, you know, he figures it out. But before he figures it out, his friends come, and when like, hey, they know you're trying to hack into.
Well, I want to say something about that. They weren't really his friends. Like,
True.
It's crazy, like, because what was implied was that he was seeing Alan's girl beforehand.
She was,
and she was low key still down, and it's crazy how a girl can unite, two guys that are like feuding over it to create something like extravagant,
Yeah, that's very true.
Because she made her way up those stairs, like she knew them. She went to the arcade and was like, "Oh yeah, this way, right up here, right up."
She's like, "I've been up here before."
Yeah, I've been up here. Alan was hot. Alan was like, "Hold on, wait, what? Oh, wait, you know that her clothes are on the ground all the time? Like, fam, I would have got hot, man."
That's kind of sus. Not only that, but like, I mean, it wasn't her, but her likeness was like playing both sides inside the grid.
Yeah. I thought that was a little weird too. Like for Kevin to be down for her, like in the grid, I was like, fam, like there's no need for that. Like that's not her.
Bro, shout out Jeff Bridges, because like I really enjoyed his performance in both movies. But it's dope seeing. It's kind of like the Indiana Jones effect, where you see this really young actor become this like older, like version. I mean, they're old now, so like. And you get to see, like, when they were younger, it was like, yo, this is kind of like a badass, to, like, us, where you kind of see, like, Michael B. Jordan that's, like, younger now, or any type of young actor that later when they're older and we're older with them, it's like, yo.
Yeah, like Leonardo DiCaprio.
Literally like Leonardo, too, yeah.
Or like Luke, like
Mark Hamill.
Look at Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, and we're able to see him now and what that character has grown into, and that I thought played like a big part, because it would be ridiculous if he was still acting the same like way that he was in Tron, as like he was in Tron Legacy.
In a way, he was, though, from like his vocabulary. He was
a little bit.
Hey man. Where it's kind of just showing like he kind of never really left the 80s. He's kind of still in that time zone, because like he's so from our society. He's like so disconnected, and that's like what he knows. But which I thought was dope, because I kind of hope Jeff Bridges is like that in real life.
Well, he's played a lot of.
I feel like
films.
He is.
Yeah, he's played a lot of film. Like think of like The Big Lebowski,
right?
And like things like that, where he's just always been this radical dude. He's just been a dude the whole time.
Didn't he say radical in the movie at some point?
He did say radical. Yeah, he
radical.
Did. It's like, get out of here, bro. Rad? Who's using rad?
Who's using rad anymore?
But so the MCP finds out he's trying to hack into him, and he like his friends, or his, I don't even know what to call
it. Was his
people who
old
want
girl,
his old girl and her new flame.
Yeah.
So she pretty much finds out her boyfriend's program got shut down, so she goes to Flynn to get some help. Flynn doesn't want to help, but they convince him. So, that same night they sneak into NCOM and try to
through a big ass door.
Yeah, through a huge ass fucking door, and try to pretty much
to the door.
Hack into the MCP. Or he tries to, So he's in the little like lab where the beam is, and he's hacking the thing. And he used to play chess with it, so he kind of knows how to mess with it. So when he's messing with it, the MCP doesn't like that. He knows that he can probably hack into him from there and probably just turn him off. But MCP pretty much, you can hear the MCP's voice, which is kind of weird to hear emotion in a computer, like scared that he might get shut down.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty weird, but at that point I figured this is more than just like, this is becoming into a living species, living being, it's AI.
Do you think while he was at the computer, he was actually hearing the MCP's voice, or you think narratively that was for us because he was kind of responding to it, right?
No, I'm pretty sure he could hear it. No, well, it was reading it. So for us, it was narration.
Okay,
he was reading what the MCP was.
And the MCP was like what he was reading was coming out as the MCP's voice.
Yeah,
and that's crazy how that's chess to them. Like, like their form of chess is, I'm going to put in this algorithm and you have to respond to it. And if I put in one that you don't understand, then I'm beating you,
that I'm in control and
your move, bitch. Yeah. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, well he definitely gave a move. They need to move that desk. That's what they need to do. They need to move that desk. That's all I saw when it happened. I was like, fam, why is that desk there with the giant particle, like basically like a particle beam accelerator type thing right behind you? Like, nah.
And he didn't learn the second time either. You're just
That's
like, bruh.
That's a fact.
I think the second time he chose to go in, but we'll get to that later.
Nonetheless, yeah. I feel
that. So he gets zapped into the grid. He didn't know that this was possible because he's never seen this machine. I think when he gets into the grid, does he say, "Am I in heaven?" or is it?
Yeah, like he's a smart dude, but he doesn't really understand like what just happened. But then, like as he's seeing like things around him, it kind of gets to him quickly because he remembers that like he created the game that uses those tanks, you know, and that uses that transport system. So he's like seeing it now really big in front of him. He's like, wait, am I really? And then he's like, oh, I am, you know, like, and to me, I feel like anybody who gets transported into that, like, you're either super smart or like you're just numb to it. Cause I would go crazy. I'd be like, no, I'm not really here. Like, I can't
I'd
really
go crazy.
Here, you know, like, I don't know if I'd be able to take that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then pretty much he gets into the grid, gets kidnapped. It's still kind of like wondering where he is. I think at that point they take him to Sark. And all Sark wants to do is like play programs in all these games and kill him. Like he's like,
that's so wild to me though, because like going back to the chess thing, like kind of all he knows is games.
Yeah.
And the fact that these programs are already implemented in the grid, that's like kind of his decision making.
Well, it was also the programs that the MCP took. So all of the data that he took, like that was cool when they met Ram, and Ram was like from an insurance company. Like, and he was just a program that was working for an insurance company. And because the MCP hacked it, they basically stole the programs from there and used them to their advantage. And if they were obsolete, then they would die, you know?
Or, yeah, they would put them in the games.
Yeah. De-resolution.
So yeah, like all these games are pretty much happening. It's pretty much like Gladiator like stuff inside a computer. Pretty much Flynn finds out that there's games going on. He's like, you know what, I think I can win. You know, everybody's kind of doubting.
Yeah,
he's like, he's different. He's different than most of them. You know, I think he can get this. Flynn starts fighting, and I think he wins. And then when is the point when they start doing the light cycle race?
Well, they did the light cycle first, and they showed Sark winning at the light cycle. And then he reported back to the MCP and was like, oh yeah, you know, I won again. Like, you know, and the whole point, like MCP was like, yeah, train these programs to make them think that they'll win, and then, you know, kill them.
Shit on them. Yeah.
And what was interesting about that is during that same race, a program hit a wall and caused a crack in the system.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's where they got the idea for the second movie when that happened.
Yeah.
You know, and like seeing it happen in the first movie, I was like, oh man, that's awesome. Like,
there's
how they
literally
just,
so many touchbacks to the first movie and the second one.
Yeah, a lot of references, like so many, like just character references or just scene references, stuff like that. Like they did really well connecting it back to Tron Legacy to Tron from 1982. But yeah, going back to the crack, he notices that there's a crack, and he tells the other two programs, which is Tron
and Ram,
and he's like, hey, if we can get through that, we can get out of here. So they devise a plan. They do it. They actually get out of there through the crack, and then that's when they start getting hunted down by Sark and the Tank Boys.
Yeah, Tank Boys. Yeah, that's a good name for them. They were the Tank Boys.
And they get hunted down, so they're just trying to escape. They kind of get away for a little bit. I don't even remember how or like where. Like they just kind of that part of the movie they're just running away, but they don't really know where they're going at. You know,
they don't have a plan yet. You know, you kind of see Tron like it. That part was interesting because you find out where Tron is. So just in the beginning of the movie, you find out that Alan had level 7 clearance and he was trying to test Tron. And Dillinger was like, "Oh yeah, that's fine. So this security program that's going to take care of everybody else besides the MCP." And Alan was like, "No, this will monitor the MCP too." And that alone, Dillinger was like, "No, I'm not going to have you monitor the thing that I've been using to get ahead. So we're going to lock you out." And that lockout resulted in Tron actually being locked up, you know? And I thought that was super interesting. Where he had to participate in these games, but he's real though. Like, you know, Tron's been fired, you know, and Alan created him very well. So he's been winning these games, but he's just still locked up and there's nothing really that he can do until, you know, of course, Kevin comes by and kind of shows that he's thinking a little bit more like he's reminding Tron of his own user.
Yeah.
You know, because the things that he's saying and the ideas that he has are in line with the instructions that Tron gets from his user, which makes their pairing, or at least the trust between them, happen really fast so that they can escape together.
Yeah.
I mean, they say it in the movie. Tron fights for the users. So when he recognized the user, he was like, "All right, I'm with you. You know, we're gonna do this together. Like, you're the only one on my side," type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think that's when they find out. They're trying to meet somebody. I think. Oh, I forget her name in the first one.
I forgot her name too.
But it was Yori.
Zori. That's what her name.
Yeah, Zori. There we go.
She's actually. I don't know if she's in the second one. Legacy.
She's not in the second one. I think it's implied that she's Sam's mother, but it shows that she died 5 years after Flynn got out of the whole thing. And you know, they didn't really touch on that. Like, I thought that like in the second, and we'll probably dissect that some more too. But in the second one, Alan and Flynn's son Sam are talking, and I just thought that like that would have been a good time for him to say something about like his mom, like, you know, and your mom would have believed, you know, like, "Oh yeah, you know, I knew her too," you know, type of thing. But
I knew her too.
I knew her.
Yeah. But you have to remember, in the second one, he doesn't think he's gonna get trapped in the grid, so like there's not really meant for a heartfelt moment.
That's true.
Because he thinks, you know, he's gonna come back the next day.
Yeah, it was all business. So, but yeah, so they end up finding her, and she is working on the part. So they're basically, what I gather is that they're in NCOM system. They're not in a video game. They're actually in the NCOM system itself.
Right. Yeah.
And the files for the video game are in NCOM system. That's why they're able to play the Gladiator games, right?
Yeah.
So when they escape, all of that is this huge tech company basically that they have to go through. Yeah. And Tron seemingly has already like a relationship with Yuri inside the grid, because they're both imprinted from the users who have a relationship outside of the grid. And when he goes to her, she's in charge of the particle beam, and the particle beam is like just another form of technology that's inside the grid. Yeah. But what they don't realize is that that's the key, because that particle beam accesses the real world.
Yeah.
And Tron and Yuri try and devise a plan to get some information out to their user, to Tron's user, which basically they just want to be able to like say something on a computer screen so that he'll be able to read it.
Yeah, pretty much what Tron wants to do is communicate with Alan, because Alan is at NCOM, because both Alan are trying to get him clearance so he can test it, because they know what's up with the MCP. They just want to shut it down because it's ruining everything. So Alan is at his computer waiting to get, you know, clearance to Tron, so that way he can pretty much give him an algorithm to defeat the MCP.
Mm-hmm.
So, he ends up doing that. He gets to like, I forget what it is. Like, it's like the downloading port or something.
Yeah.
He gets the download, he puts it in the disk, and that's pretty much where he has the file to destroy the MCP.
Yeah.
I think later on he links up with Flynn again.
Yeah. They meet back up. So they separated because Flynn, or the Tank Boys, as we call them.
The Tank Boys blew them up.
Blew them up, seemingly blew up their ship, and or blew up their cycles, their light
cycles. Yeah.
And Flynn and this other supporting character named Ram, who was like, he seemed like he was kind of like the believer, like he wanted to believe in the things.
Do this.
Yeah, but he was just kind of like caught up in this thing. And he was the one that actually got to see Flynn accomplish what users can accomplish. Flynn was able to create within the grid, which surprised Flynn and surprised Ram, but confirmed to Ram his beliefs. It was like him seeing Jesus, like literally like saying like, wait, you're God? Like,
yeah.
Oh man,
like my creator.
I knew it. Yeah, it's like I knew it. I knew that you existed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right before, of course, he died.
they call it user power. Like that's what Flynn has. He has power in the grid, which is user power, pretty much.
That's basically what their drinking water is, right? Like they're drinking water in the grid.
Well, the water. I forgot to bring that up, but the water is pure energy. So
gotcha.
It's pretty much water, like what it is to us, but to them, that's pure energy. So when they drink it, they get re-energized, and I think they just
Yeah, I bet that water was fire, bro. Like,
yeah,
I don't know if you got, because just side note, I've had like well water, like pumped, like to drink, and that was probably the best water I've ever had in my life. Like, I've never felt hydrated prior to that. Like, when I drank it, I felt all of the water go into my system and literally like go up against. That's crazy. Like the walls of my body. Like, I got to bathe in it. It was great. It was during tour 2014. We were in Wisconsin, Beaver Dam, Wisconsin. Damn. And we were on a farm, and they had a well, and it was the best thing. It was the best thing I've ever had, ever. Yeah. So that's what I imagined when I saw them drinking it, and it was like coursing through them. I was like,
it looked good, to be honest. Like, I wish I could have drank some of that.
For real.
It kind of looked like what's that blue alcoholic Hypnotic?
Yo,
old school.
MD 2020. That's crazy.
That's funny.
Boone's Farm,
bro. Don't make me get the Incredible Hulk, man. A little Hypnotic and Henny. It's a whole different ball game, man. But yeah, so they end up meeting up and confronting the MCP, who has energized Sark with all of his power, basically.
Right.
Yeah. It gets to a point where like they're fighting MCP and he's losing, and Sark is dead, or he's laying on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And then MCP is like, take my power. Like,
you have my power now.
Yeah, he transfers some everything.
Which is dope because he split his head open and you could see it. And I was like, this is fire.
Yeah. And then, it was all circuits and everything. That was like, for them,
kind of gory.
It was kind of gory. Yeah. Yep. I feel you on that. I feel you on that one.
Was this a Disney movie in 82 or was this?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a Disney movie in 82.
Wow. That's crazy. That's so crazy.
I like watching retro movies like this because I try to watch it as if I'm watching it for the first time in the 80s. Kind of like, I don't mean to love Back to the Future. It is. But like, I love watching back. Like, I still ask my mom because she saw it in theaters. And I was like, how was it when you saw this movie in theaters? Because like, I would love to have been there. I would have loved to kind of see everybody's reactions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I know this one is kind of like, to them, those graphics were like brand new. It's kind of like when, like, I remember when the N64 came out and I played Donkey Kong 64 for the first time. And I was like, yo, these graphics are insane. So I can only imagine in 82, especially like the rise of computers was like on the brink. So this is all next level.
And it added to the thrill because people, again, were genuinely terrified of what computers were going to be able to accomplish.
Yeah.
I think it made people not want to learn how to code.
I see.
Maybe.
And then MySpace came around and we learned how to code on MySpace.
and then they quickly took that away. They were like, no, you guys.
They're like, y'all getting too smart. Never.
Yeah, nope. We're gonna stop that right now. No, I feel you, man. And,
so
it was cool. And that was the first time that we've seen the disc kind of get used in like a fighting
form. Yeah. Outside of the game, more so.
Outside of the game, like because in part 2 the disc is very 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 important, to the programs, but in part 1 it's just using the games, and then Tron uses it to defeat the MCP eventually. Like we said, this movie kind of starts and ends, so it's kind of like hard to find a middle or even like an ending or where to start.
A lot of the unresolved questions are answered in part 2 because they kind of only, even though they say the first thing, like when you get your disc, everything you learn, everything you know is imprinted on here, but they don't go in depth. And then number 2 comes around, and that's why it plays like this huge important role. Like, I need Flynn's disc because the knowledge of the whole world is in here.
Yeah,
pretty much. And the knowledge that was in that disc that Tron had was the evidence that Flynn actually created the games.
Right.
And so when they destroyed the MCP and they were able to defeat Sark, what came out of it in the real world was just some code that like a receipt, basically. A receipt.
Yeah, it was just
it was like nothing, and it was just like a receipt that said, "Hey, Flynn created this on this date."
Yeah, which is dumb because we could have just typed it up and be like, "Yo, this the proof right here."
For real.
Yeah.
And then it kind of fast forwards, and you see that Flynn is in a helicopter now and is running the company of Encom, and they hug, and that's it. The movie just cuts out. Like,
so
okay.
The big disconnect, which I feel like would have tied more into the title, would have been if it showed that portion and then like the actual ending scene was them like back in the arcade, and he's like, "Oh, this is what I'm working on," and it's the video game based on Tron.
Yeah. That would have been cool. I feel like that would have been a solid ending of like Flynn saying we have a new game, and him basically taking everything that he went through and saying, "I'm going to make this game now." Based on Tron, but they didn't really do that.
They don't really talk at the end after they leave the grid. It's just kind of like, "Oh, here comes the boss," and he's coming in, and Flynn's coming in a helicopter.
And she's like, "That's my baby daddy," and
then the movie ends.
Yeah,
just like that. So it's like
just like that.
Okay, that was cool. Like,
I was gonna say, Mike, how'd you feel about the music in the original one, in the 80s one?
So, the first Tron that I saw was Tron Legacy. So hearing Daft Punk and like, electronic music in the grid or in the movie, it's kind of like, okay, this is cool because it kind of goes with it. And then you go to Tron 1982 and it's just super classical,
like weird. It just
orchestral.
It
didn't fit too much. There was parts where it kind of did, but it was kind of like, okay, this just doesn't fit. I'm not used to this.
It almost felt like it got its stride like 3/4 into the movie. Then it started like the music started fitting what we were watching. But the beginning was like, it was just like an 80s sitcom or like an 80s cartoon or something like that, like that kind of music. And it just didn't fit with what was going on. It wasn't futuristic at all.
Yeah. So, I mean, getting into Tron Legacy now, they really like updated everything. Like they wanted to use a lot of references, but they wanted it to look more futuristic, more like, I wouldn't say like now because nothing looks like that really in real life, but I mean, like I just think the second one really upped the ante and made it and saved the first one. It starts off with I think Flynn. What's his name? What's the kid's name? I have it written down. Sam.
The kid's name is Sam.
Sam.
And his father, Kevin Flynn, which is played by Jeff Bridges, which is the first time that Disney has used CGI de-aging technology.
Yes.
That was the first movie that we seen that in.
When I first saw this movie, Tron Legacy, I was like, damn, they made Jeff Bridges look young. It looks good.
Mm-hmm.
I watched it again the other day. I was like, damn, this looks trash.
It's super trash.
For the time being, though, it's still, I still thought it looked good. I still thought it looked fire.
It didn't look bad. But at the same time, when you find out what they used the de-aging for it was for Clue, it kind of made sense because he's a program. He's meant to kind of look fake.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It kind of fits, but it just bugged me a little bit. I'm like,
yeah. It bugged me in the beginning, like him in the real world.
Oh,
like that. Like when he turned around and he was like, "We're both on the same team." I was like, "Bam, get out of here!" Like if you don't drive off.
He looked fake. Yeah.
I thought it would have done it more justice in the first one if they didn't show Jeff Bridges. My bad. Look, first off, I stutter a lot. We know this. No, it would have been more effective if they didn't show Jeff Bridges at first, and then when Flynn drives away on his Ducati, then he turns around and you're like, "Oh shit, Jeff Bridges is young," and then he just takes off.
Yeah. So, it kicks off with that happening, and basically it's implied that Sam, never saw his father after that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have the little narrative of the TVs kind of saying Kevin Flynn disappeared, and that's when they told us, about Lori and how Lori died, 5 years after from mysterious causes, and that from that he kind of became erratic, and he was saying, "Oh man, it's the next frontier. Like I've discovered something," and we don't really know what happened. And I felt like that was kind of against the character that we saw in the first movie.
Yeah,
I was like, how did he just get like? I mean, I guess maybe your wife dying and like you discovering the grid and going in there more change your perspective, but it never really kind of showed that he like got reckless. You know what I mean?
He always seemed to have like a vision, it never strayed, no matter what happened. He was doing what he was doing for humanity. Like he mentioned that in the beginning, like what I'm doing in the beginning of Tron Legacy, what I'm doing can change humanity,
Yeah.
So I think it was bigger than him and bigger than his family, because even to a point he was happy to leave his kid every day and go into the grid, obviously he didn't, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah.
So pretty much his
idea.
Yeah, his dad disappears. All the new stuff happens, and then fast forward, and it shows Sam hacking into Encom, or trying. He's getting into Encom. This is where the big door comes into play.
The first reference.
Yeah.
The first reference.
Yeah. He entered the same way that his father entered in breaking into Encom.
Yeah, and trying to get through security and thinking of little clever ways with the laser.
You would think that big ass building would have more than one security guard.
That's true.
It did, but it only showed him, and then later it showed more. I was like, where were these guys?
Where these guys are all just chilling.
And he had a lot more lines than I would think for a security guard.
Yeah.
Like he was like when he climbed up to the tower after everything was said and done.
You don't get paid enough to climb up here, sir.
Fam, hell no. No, the police would. I mean, the police were called, but like I'm not going to climb up the tower to try and talk you down off the ledge.
When the guys are at the bottom, when like on the street, like, oh, there he is. But I'm like, you guys weren't on the roof.
Yeah.
Not only that, but they made the fattest security guard climb up all those stairs.
My dude was ready, bro. He pulled the burner out too. You hear the. It was like a little electronic. He was ready. He was about to blast them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, so when he's hacking, he pretty much, what he's trying to hack is a program that his dad made, I think, a few years back, and his dad wanted it for free to students, but Encom wanted to sell it. They wanted to make money off of it because it was their best program that they've made in years. Like it could have been their most profitable moment ever. But Flynn finds out, he goes to hack it, and he just releases it for free. Encom finds out, and they get mad. I think it's kind of weird on this part how they have another Ed Dillinger, but he's not really.
He's the son.
Yeah, he's the son, but he has no like need to be in the movie.
It's kind of more like a callback.
I had a theory about that because the actor that they casted for that is a very prominent actor.
That's what I was saying.
He always plays like the bad guys in a sense.
Well, he plays really good bad guys, and I forgot his name slips me right now, but he played Scarecrow in Batman Begins.
Yes.
He was in Inception.
Yes.
He was in the Time movie, Justin Timberlake too, where he played like
In Time.
In Time. Yeah.
He was in Time, and the reason why they made him, in my opinion, was in case they made a sequel, because then he would be the bad guy again, because they kind of showed that he was like on par with Sam also, because they got locked out of the system and got locked out of the system,
and
he fixed it.
I have a theory about a part 2 to Tron Legacy that I want to get to later.
Okay, all right, yeah, no, we're gonna get to that. And it was cool seeing the boardroom and seeing like they were still typing on the desk. You know, they made everything like on the desk, and you see Alan, like a grown-up version, older version of Alan, still on the board. And like, he kind of says like, well, we've always been doing this for free, and the chairman of the board now is kind of like, yeah, fam, that's in the past. Like you're part of the past, fam. Like, we're trying to make this money. Yeah. I got this press conference set up. I have Ed Dillinger's son, who's the best that we have.
Yeah, and he's talking to Alan, right? At this point.
Yeah, he's talking to Alan. He's talking to Alan. And then when they try and launch it, Sam's hack goes off, which was basically a Frenchie, a video of a Frenchie barking. And in that meantime, Alan kind of like, he's like, okay, well, I've seen hacking happen before. It doesn't just disappear. It has to go somewhere. So it was cool where you kind of see the parallel of like Dillinger was like, okay, I'm going to take this into my own hands to undo this hack. So he kind of like brings up his own computer and does it. And then Alan brings up his own tablet of like finding where it is, and it's like, those are the only two people worth shit, like in the boardroom.
Like,
pretty much.
In that boardroom. and Alan was like, oh, I found it. It's going for free right now on the internet. And
you see the stocks just going down,
bro. They were just down, and they were just losing so much money. And the press was like, "Oh, well, like they're having some technical difficulties.
Let them sort it out. We'll be right back." It's so trash, bro.
Just shitted on them, and I think Alan kind of knew, like, the only person that can do that,
or that would do that,
that would have any guts of doing that, would be Sam. And it is implied that Alan had kind of wanted Sam to be involved in the first place to protect Encom from even being able to do this, but Sam was so mad that Encom is a part of his dad who left him, that he's like, I'm not going to do that. But he also can't help but live up to the ideals that his father kind of instilled in him.
Yeah It's crazy how he jumps off the roof and
like what kind of plan is that?
Some Grand Theft Auto shit, bro.
Like, are you gonna just grab a parachute and jump off the roof? Like, nah.
Where'd the parachute come from? He's just like, all right, yo, I got it. We out.
For real.
A pretty cool tidbit as well, going off of like how it was implied who his mom was. He made the comment like, the surrogate father thing worked when I was 19, but not anymore.
Oh, to Alan.
To Alan, yeah. Alan, and Alan and Sam were talking about it in his apartment. The whole surrogate father thing. But also, like, you can't really tell if he's wanting to be like his dad figure because his dad left, or it's because he was like in love with his mom. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like Alan just kind of, because of what they went through. But the thing is like, I would feel that way if Alan went to the grid. But Alan didn't even go to the grid. It was Tron. So it was like, how do you feel that strongly to do something like that? But, I guess it just wanted to show his good intention. But one of the things that I noticed, which was really cool, I don't know if you guys saw this, but when... Yes. That was so tight. When he went back to his house, the name of like the shipping
on the garage,
it said Dumont. And Dumont was the guy that really helped Tron, his father and Tron in the first movie.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
Man, I thought it was so dope. I was like, this is real. Like, they're really calling back right now. Like, they're doing everything that they can.
Yeah, no, they really did all they can Like, dude, throughout this whole Tron Legacy movie, like, there's so many callbacks. Like, I just kept writing them down. Like, one, there's another one, but they weren't just like, all right, here they are. They didn't just throw them in. They kind of tied them in really well.
Yeah.
I mean, the Dumont one wasn't huge. It was just kind of like a little Easter egg. So it was cool to catch that because I didn't catch that the first time. Or even if I did catch it, I didn't know it.
Yeah, I didn't think anything of it because I didn't see the first one. So like Dumont to me would have just been like where he's at, maybe like Dumont Point,
right?
Something like that. Like I wouldn't have thought anything of it. So
such a cool place to live. Also,
it's good marketing too. That and the nostalgia sells. But just overall for like true like diehard fans that love Tron, it's like yo, like okay, callback.
So, yes, you can tell that there was love put into Legacy. You know, like they really, really wanted to make it because you could have easily done a sequel and not really give care about it. You know what I mean? But they really cared. So just fast forward. Alan lets Sam know that he received a page. And he got this page and he thinks that it's from his father because he hasn't gotten it for like 20 years. The
line's been disconnected for 20 years.
Yeah. And Sam's kind of like, well, I mean, fam, like he's not going to just be sitting there, for 20 years, like saying, hey, I lost track of time. Like, my bad, and Alan kind of, because he probably heard the stories that Flynn was telling him, it was kind of like, well, you never know, fam. Like that might be the case. And lo and behold, when Sam goes back to Flynn's arcade, behind the Tron machine is
a really big door.
A really big door, and another big door, I guess.
Little secret hideout.
And the keys were still in there, so it kind of added to him feeling that nobody has been here since his father.
Right.
And like, well, shit, I might open this door and he might actually be there. Like, who knows? And when he opens the door, he sees his office and he's like, whoa, like you were really out here working like this. Like, I think it kind of gave him some ease on saying like, okay, like as a kid, I knew you were working, but for you to have like a secret lair, you were working, like you were doing something crazy. And you get a shot of the particle machine in there. And again, I didn't think much of it. I thought it was like when I first saw Tron Legacy, like that was something that Flynn built. But like once you watch the original and you realize, oh, that was something else.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, damn, like dang, he brought it in there.
I think it's crazy that not even NCOM knows about this. So this was like his secret. Like I feel like after Tron 1982, he found out what the beam is. He's like, all right, take this out. I don't want nobody else messing with this but just me.
Put it in my secret lair.
Yeah, he probably decommissioned it as being, the owner of the company again, or the boss man of the company again.
And then just kept it.
He just kept it. They probably thought that it got destroyed or anything like that because that would have advanced technology farther than they were even in that movie, you know? So he was kind of like, no, we're not going to use this. We're gonna take this away. And then he hid it so that he can start building his own world in the grid inside of NCOM, inside of their technologies.
Yeah.
And then Sam, being a programmer himself, just kind of like tries to figure out what happened. He's like, oh, well, like, what's the login? Oh, I don't have the login password. Okay, well, what was the last thing that was here? Oh, it gave him some information. And he's like, all right, well, bring that back up. And then, boom, you get transported.
He zapped himself. I like how they get zapped into the second movie rather than the first one.
Yeah, the first one looks like
the first one was like, it's like.
Well, also that's because the grid is actually based off of the world. You got to see what he was building. He literally took the city they were in and just recreated it in the grid.
Yeah, after he got zapped in, yeah, I noticed that. Like when he got out in the grid, he was at Flynn's. He was at the arcade,
right?
And going down the streets, and then he gets captured. Still not even knowing where he is. Pretty much like how his dad was in the first one. He's like, "Where am I? Like, what is this? Like, am I in heaven or am I dead?" Type thing. Gets captured by, I don't even know what they're called. Those guards.
I'm not too sure.
They never give him a
name. Yeah, they're kind of close to stormtroopers, though. If you think about it.
Yeah, they're kind of like stormtrooper or like Imperial Guards, I guess, type of thing. Yeah.
And I was hoping to see more of the tanks. The tank boys did not make a return.
That's the one thing they did not reference this movie.
They only showed it in like an aerial view, like real quick. Because when he was getting transferred, you can see him look down and you can see the tanks, but they didn't really emphasize that like the tanks were running around.
That's because the tanks are technically slow now compared to what they created with the light bikes. Plus, they made the light planes, the light jets.
Light plane. Yeah, that was cool. I think they wanted to implement the tanks, but they kind of realized it was just a little
probably
too
overkill.
Dated, too dated or overkill. Yeah. So they were like, what, take it out. It's not as important, because honestly, I was, it was cool that they kind of didn't put it in. There was not really any need in any part to bring it in.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So yeah, pretty much he gets captured and he gets taken to pretty much like the new Sark. What's his name?
His name is Clue.
No.
It's basically Tron, but evil Tron, right?
No,
the other guy.
No. The guy who he was kind of dumb, but he wasn't dumb. He was just like the right hand, like attendant guy.
Yeah. Okay, I know what you mean. I'm blanking on his name too.
Yeah. So he takes him to that guy. Let's just call him the game master. I think that's what he is.
Okay.
So he pretty much goes to that guy and he puts him in the games. And I think this probably is one of my favorite parts of Tron Legacy when Sam is playing the games.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of makes me like just want to jump in there and play the games like that. Like when I first saw it, I wanted to do that. Like I just wanted to jump into the grid and light cycle or throw the frisbee and knock somebody off the grid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it kind of implied that was the game of Tron.
Yeah.
Because when Sam said, "Oh, I have a 18-inch figure of you, like action figure of you," it was like the actual game was throwing the disc at each other and trying to avoid getting hit and while you're taking out all these other people.
My figure doesn't do that.
Yeah. So he kind of figures a way to beat the game. And he tries to escape while he's in the games, and like, so they finally get to the final match, and he doesn't get to escape. He kind of escapes into the last round, and I don't want to spoil anything about Rinsler yet. I kind of want to get to that later, but he fights Rinsler, which is Clue's like best guardian. Yeah, he's his best pretty much soldier.
He got 2 discs.
Yeah, he has 2 discs. He has a weird name.
Sam tries to take his apart. Yo, is that allowed?
He's like, yeah, I can't do that. Yeah, so he pretty much just gets his ass beat by Rinsler, and I think Rinsler cuts him, and he sees blood, and immediately he's like, "All right, bro, like
he's different. A god. He's a god."
He's like, "This is a user," and then Clue finds out, and he gets taken to Clue. And when he takes off his helmet, Sam is like, "What the heck? Like,
Dad,
you've been here the whole time. Like, what have you been up to? And he just kind of like, hey, nice to see you. It's been a while."
Mm-hmm. And he was acting very undad-like.
Undad-like.
And Sam was like, well, if you run all of this, and I get you may like being here and being in control, but could we just go home? Like, why?
Go. And then he's like, nah. And he's like, what?
Yeah.
And he's like, what's wrong with you? And he's like, he says some things. He's like, I'm very disappointed. Like, I expected a lot more. And I was like, damn, like he's on dad. Imagine hearing your dad tell you that after years of trying to find him, and you finally do.
But then Sam realizes, well, from all the stories, that like, oh yeah, it's Clue.
Yeah, Clue ends up saying, well, he's like, I'm not your dad. And then he's like, Clue. And he's like, yep.
Yeah, he puts it together. And I think, I don't know if did they show like a Clue action figure where it looked like his dad?
No.
Okay. Yeah. So
he knew it was
stories.
Yeah, he knew it was Clue because in the beginning of the movie, he's like, I made a program that's like me and you, pretty much. Mm-hmm. So it thinks like me and you, so it's like it's better for the world, blah blah blah. So that's how he finds out that it's Clue. you just kind of put two and two together.
He's super lucky that he was paying attention to what his dad was telling him. Like, fam,
man, when your dad leaves, you kind of hold on to those. Like, I remember everything my dad says, otherwise I'm gonna forget who he is.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Also, shout out Sam, because if I would have got thrown in that, I probably would have died first round.
Yeah, that's a fact. Not just you, but for me too. Like, I wouldn't know what to do. Like, I throw that disc one time. I just feel like I turn one way and like it would ricochet off of something and just like catch me.
I'm too inaccurate in Frisbee, fam. Like, I don't know where my disc is going.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But where was I? Or where were we?
He just got taken a clue, and Clue said, "I'm not your father.
I'm disappointed in you. I'm not your dad."
That's your dad. So after that, I think he takes him to. He wants to play him personally, right? In the light cycle race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
Yes.
So they go to the light cycle. That's like the ultimate game. Is like when people hear the light cycle, they're like, "Oh my god! Like the light cycle's about to happen! Like let's get it going!" And then the game master's giving like this massive speech, and he leans into Clue. He's like, "Hey, what'd you think about that speech?
I got them really going.
I got them going." He's like, "Yeah, it wasn't for them." I was like, "Damn."
I'm like, dude, this dude's ego needs to be fed, bro.
And that was interesting because he's a program.
Yeah.
So he was just like, did I do what I was made to do well? And Clue didn't really even acknowledge that. He was just like, fam, like you did what you're supposed to do, but it wasn't for these people. And that's kind of like the whole thing. Like Clue is operating with an additional initiative in mind that he hasn't told all these other programs.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, he just like in Clue's mind, he's like, I need to get out of here. I've controlled this whole area that everyone listens to me. I have everything under control. What's the next step now? And he's almost turning into the MCP.
Yeah. Not only that, like he himself is still a program because he's always looking for what's next and he wants to accomplish more. You know, he wants the next task. You know, like same thing as all these other programs. Like when he's like, did I do good? Like, what should I do next? Type of thing.
Right.
So unlike a user, it's kind of like you just kind of go with the flow or, you know,
you improvise.
Whatever's next is next, you know?
Yeah.
But, so yeah, they start doing the light cycle race and that light cycle, well, not race, the battle. That light cycle battle is really cool. You know, at one point, Sam starts working with one of the programs to kill them all off, and they get to the last one, and then Clue kills the last program that was helping Sam, and they
his hands all stuck on the handlebar still.
Honestly, it was shot so well on that part. Everything. So then after that, it's literally just Sam and Clue against each other, and right before Clue is gonna, like, I think he's gonna run over Sam, I believe.
Yeah, he was just gonna run over him.
He's gonna run him over. Out of nowhere, the reference with the wall crack comes in, and somebody flies in with this crazy. It's kind of like a light cycle car.
Yeah, a light rover.
The
light rover. Yeah, it is like a ATV light cycle type thing. Picks him up. The voice modulator for Korra makes it at first sound like a guy, but I remember seeing that the first time. I was like, "That's not a guy. It doesn't even look like it looks like a girl. Like just the shape, the way that and where she's sitting and stuff.
Her shape."
Well, what actor is that?
That's Olivia Wilde. She's super fire.
She's so fine. She's married to the dude from SNL, Jason Sudeikis, right?
I think so. I'm not too sure. She was in House. If anybody watched House, she was in later versions of House.
I love House.
And Olivia Wilde. She's a great actress and director. Yeah. And this was kind of like, I wouldn't say like her blow up, but this was definitely when she was like in the mouth of Hollywood, you know, we're talking about her and everything. So for her to get this role was pretty dope.
Yeah, as like the lead supporting role.
Yeah.
She was very important to the movie. We'll also get to that in a little bit. But Yeah, I think it's just pretty crazy how that reference was brought back, a lot better and a lot different. This time, Sam was saved instead of him trying to escape, because obviously he didn't have people like Ram or Tron helping him. So it was literally just him.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty much Korra is in the city, kind of like looking over, trying to see what's good, just kind of observing. That's when she sees Sam is fighting, and that's when she saves him and takes him back to the middle of nowhere, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then Sam realizes that Clue can't get to him because it's not part of the grid. It's pretty much a terrain that's not supported by those programs, only supported by users or such like that.
Yeah, it's just it's the empty space of the internet. That's what it made me feel like, because the internet is just it's infinite.
Yeah, it's infinite.
But there's nothing there until you build it, So, but what I found interesting is that he ended up leaving that place though, because they got in the ships and they went to the outskirts.
Yeah.
But it was just that the light cycles weren't able to go over there.
Yeah. And they never went over there in general in the first place because they never knew exactly where Flynn was hiding at.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, pretty much she takes him back to the hideout where Flynn is at with Korra. And Korra's like, we have guests. And Flynn's like, that's not a thing. We can't have guests. Like,
yeah. And that was my first indication of like, oh, maybe he didn't send the page. Like he would have known that a guest would be coming if he sent the page.
Yeah.
So when he was like, oh, there's not supposed to be guests, there's not supposed to be anything like that, I was like, uh-oh, this is like, it's a setup.
Something's fishy.
Yeah. And then he turns around and he sees his son and he's like just blown away.
My boy.
Yeah, they're just kind of in shock. They're like, wow, this is real. Like, you're actually alive. And
yeah, that hug was emotional. I saw the look on Jeff Bridges' face. It was emotional.
Mm-hmm. The hug was more emotional than like, because if you think about it, if that were really to happen, like you wouldn't really know what to do, or like everybody's different. Like you wouldn't know what to do in that exact situation, other than that hug where you see all the emotion, as to where he's like, I'll be right back, and then he like walks outside to like he was in shock.
Gather again because it brought him all the way back to. It's almost like all the progress that you made without this person, and then you run back into that person, and it transports you back to the way that you were thinking,
right?
You were being then, and he's like, "I'm Zen now," or at least trying to be Zen now, and like this just threw me off. Like this wasn't what I expected at all.
And that's when Korra kind of affirms like he thought it was never going to see you again, and then you're like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even to the point where it's like, well, not even getting to a point, but Sam is like, all right, now that I found you, let's go. And he's like, or why couldn't you leave? He's like, oh, because it got shut down from the outside and I couldn't get to the portal in time because, he kind of gives him a little story about Clue and Tron and all that. So he's like, I just had to come out here because this is the only way that I could survive because pretty much Clue wants me dead type of thing. Yeah. So he's like, all right, well, now it's open. We can leave. And at that point, he's like, well, I can't go over there. Like I just said, he wants me dead. And if he gets me, it's over for mankind type of thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, I noticed that even Korra was like, well, now that we have somebody, we can fight.
Yeah.
Like she was very impatient.
She was ready to go.
Yeah, she was very impatient. But at the same time, Flynn was like, no, like we can't. Like there's no way. He's waiting for us to make our move back to like chess type of thing. But I remember Clue saying, I think later on in this movie that kind of brought me back to this part was I used to beat him all the time in chess. Like I would always beat Clue in chess because pretty much Korra had mentioned that she has a very aggressive strategy.
Yeah.
So to me, I feel like all programs have like an aggressive strategy. They're not patient. They just kind of want the next task. They want to get it done so they can get the next task and get that done. So it cuts to a point where Clue is sitting like in his lair just waiting, but he's like really, really impatient. You can tell he's like, all right, Flynn, your move. Like, come on. Like he's just waiting there. He can't do nothing. Like,
it's like, give me a command, like do something so I can react to what you're doing.
And Flynn knew that. That's why he didn't react, because if he would have, and if they would have went to the portal, obviously right away they would have got captured. So
yes,
I think that was pretty interesting, that it really showed the patience of humans and how they can wait for so long, and the programs are just, they're living in the now and they want it now. So
they want to do what they're programmed to do all the time. It kind of reminds me of like just a segue to like cartoons with like Adventure Time or you know, just like things like that, where like you have certain cartoons that love doing what they do. You know, it's like you have a couch that talks and it's like, sit on me, please, like sit on me, like use me, you know what I mean? Or like a toaster that's like, toast, please, like that's what I know how to do and I do it well. And that's kind of what you got. And humans are more nuanced, you know, and even someone as advanced as Clue didn't really understand that, you know? And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I actually like that little part. I don't know if a lot of people caught onto that, like the impatience of them or the aggressiveness of these programs, but I really like that. Like, I was like, oh, okay, I got something out of this, because I mean, sadly, from the Tron 1982, I didn't really get too much out of it. It's just kind of, it was just really much about aesthetic and just straight story. So so Tron Legacy kind of adds a lot of different, like, I guess just viewpoints or just perspectives. Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at. So it was cool that they kind of transformed it into something bigger, or, you know, because it did have a lot of potential, you know.
Yeah. And Sam isn't going to stay here. So he's like, well, if my dad's not going to come, then I'm going to get out of here. And I need to figure out how to do that. Yeah. So Cora, you know, he kind of tells Cora, like, you know, let's go. Like, you can help me. And Cora, you know, is faithful to Sam's dad, because little did Sam know at that time, you know, Sam's dad rescued her, you know, and saved her life and helped introduce all of this new knowledge that she wouldn't have had otherwise. So she's like, I want to help, but I can't just like leave your father like that, you know? So well, this is kind of where the movie kind of kicks up in what's going on.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think Sam pretty much explains to Sam why Clue turned on him and why he's trapped in there.
That was so cool, man. Like that whole like montage of, or not really montage, but just flashback.
Yeah. No.
This part. And Tron was hard at that time, bro. He was ready. He was giving hands to anybody.
Like, you guys noticed, but Tron was the de-age version of Alan. Only in the flashbacks, though.
He looked good, though. He looked good.
He looked really good, but also it wasn't close-ups. It was all far away. So
that's true.
Fire.
That's true. Yeah, when you saw Flynn make the mirrored version of Clue, and then kind of let him know like what his directive is supposed to do, and they look the same. Like it kind of, you know, what's even more nuanced than that? It kind of goes back to how Flynn was jealous of Alan in the first movie, you know, of Laurie being taken. So like that jealousy has always been in him.
Yeah.
So when Clue sees that Flynn and Tron are kind of cooking, you know, and they're doing stuff, Clue's kind of like, well, fam, like, am I still supposed to be doing this? Like, are we still doing this together?
He also gets jealous because at this point in the movie, Flynn kind of changes his whole viewpoints. Like he notices perfection is in front of him, you know, because that's why he created Clue. He wanted to create the perfect world. But once he finds out in this world that there's already organisms or some type of life that has sprouted, you know, just because
of their involvement and because of, you know, the right conditions, he realized that that's perfection.
Yeah, that's perfection. So Clue finds out, well, that to me, that's not perfect, you know. So he pretty much goes on to kill all these organisms, all these life that has sprouted from the grid, and just commits genocide. And that's when,
which is another callback to like religion, you know, because then you can say that Clue was like Lucifer. You know, and that Flynn was God, and that they were doing this together, and then like, or like the angels and everything like that.
Yeah.
But God created man, and that's who, at least as far as story-wise is concerned, that's who he thought were perfect, and that who he wanted to put all of his love in. And Lucifer is like, fam, like, you already made us. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, we're that. And then because he turned on that and felt that that was him preserving what his actual purpose was, like how Satan or the devil or anything like that has influenced humans. That's kind of how Clue has influenced those isotopes and, did the genocide and everything like that.
Yeah, no, I thought that part was really cool that some life had sprouted, and I don't know, it's cool that maybe life can sprout from technology.
I think so, man. It seems very plausible. Like, the more that we put our lives into technology, why wouldn't that be the case? I think the minute that we do actually go into the internet, and that's just great narrative storytelling, like of just kind of stretching it and stretching it and stretching it and seeing how far it can go. And I feel like that idea is really what helped them make the sequel in the first place.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what if we start going into the internet, because we kind of already see that that's like where it's going with virtual reality, augmented reality. And we start going into the internet and we spend a few years in there, and then someone is born in the internet.
Yeah.
Right. Then what do we do at that point? And it's like, they're not human, but they're not, something that we made that's in there. It was just the circumstances are right. Life always finds a way.
Yeah. Life prevails. Yeah. So then back to pretty much Sam. He's like, all right, if he doesn't want to get out, I'm going to get us out myself. I'm going to find a way. He goes to pretty much tries to go to a guy. I don't know. To me, at this point, they're trying to make that guy Zeus to be like Dumont.
Yeah, but like a bad version.
Yeah, like a bad version. So like it was kind of weird that now Dumont is on the other side type of thing. Even though
I think it kind of added to the nuance of our like relationship with humans, because before, when Dumont was being created, everyone felt that like an elder like that would have your best interest in heart, and would sacrifice himself in order to make sure that you're good.
Yeah.
And then now in this current version, it's like, well, if someone has that kind of information, they're a little conniving. Like, they want to make sure that the information just isn't being put out and they aren't getting anything out of it, So that's where the parallel was. And I think that was a direct reflection of where we are at in society.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, he was very conniving, you can kind of already tell, he was just kind of like, just enjoy yourself. Don't worry about it. He was
like Loki.
He was like Loki. He was like, I'll let you know later, we'll do the mission later. But at that point, he had already notified Clue that Sam was right there pretty much at the bar or at the club, which is cool because that's when Daft Punk makes an appearance.
Hey, it was popping.
Which makes me sad because did they leave the club or did they die in the club?
No, they didn't leave.
They didn't leave. They exploded.
This is my theory.
Okay.
That's what they're programmed to do. They did not do anything else but play music. Because even when they started fighting in the club,
they just kept playing music.
They switched the song. They're like, all right.
Fight song, fight music.
Yeah. Which I feel like the fight scenes could have been a little bit more sharper and cleaner.
I agree.
True.
Like,
I agree.
I don't know if it was just because Disney, they just kind of half-assed it. They're like, whatever, it's PG-13. We don't want it to go that crazy. But I feel like they could have easily, without obviously without blood, because they're programs.
Yeah. I think it may have been a conscious effort to kind of show how much better Tron was, because Tron was really the only fighter designated to fight. It was the only program that was made to like really, really fight. And in the flashbacks, he was just so precise.
Yes.
Super precise, blocking stuff, like murdering everybody.
It literally just shows how well crafted he was.
Yes.
But also, when you have antivirus software on your computer, you want it to be as badass as Tron.
Yes. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do for sure. So like I thought that was kind of like a good takeaway, but I agree. I think the choreography for the fighting could have been better on Legacy.
Yeah.
Like could have added to it. Like that's one thing. If they do make a sequel, I'm expecting for the fight choreography to be way better. Like I need to see like Tron type. Like the acrobatics were cool, but I want to see like actual like fades going down.
Yeah. So fast forwarding a little bit, pretty much Clue finds out that he's there, and then Flynn comes to save his son because he knows what's about to go down. He's like, well, I have to go save him now. Like, there's no other way because we have to save him, and then I have to get him out of here. Clue gets there. He ends up taking the disc, or not Clue, but some guard takes the disc, and then the other conniving guy
Zeus
tries to sell it to Clue in exchange for, being let off the hook and still in power. But Clue ends up killing him, takes the disc, tries
blows
to go.
Up Daft Punk.
Yeah, blows up Daft Punk, and I noticed at that point there was no more Daft Punk music. It was just kind of like its own soundtrack. Like the movie had a different soundtrack, but it still sounded really cool. I liked it.
That's a good observation for sure.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was like, "Whoa!"
I just want to try that drink. I just want to try that drink that Clue made
because
those
weird
like
ice cubes.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if it was like candy or ice cubes or whatever the hell it was.
It's crazy.
I'm surprised they haven't brought in Tron into
Disneyland.
Disneyland.
Yeah, they had Electronica, which was like a rave dance thing, and they have Flynn's Arcade in.
They had Flynn's
California.
Arcade, and then
Sure.
I think when the Tron movie came out, they redid Space Mountain.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's cool.
Space Mountain's known for like doing that though, which is pretty fire. Because I think I went through it once where they played nothing but Red Hot Chili Peppers, and it was.
and they also have a Tron. They have a Tron ride where you're on the bikes, but it's like a roller coaster. But
is it like in Disney World?
Disney World, yeah, it's in Disney World.
Of course it is.
We need to make a Disney. We need to make a Disney World trip. Obviously after this.
Yeah.
But
yeah, but just they kept going, and Clue now has this disc, and they're kind of like, all right, well, if he has a disc, we're gonna just make a run for the portal, and everything that I do outside of the portal will be faster than what Clue is trying to do inside. And they get to a point where Cora ends up sacrificing herself because she knows that that the disc is important. It's like, you got to get it. Like, we can't just let him have it.
Yeah, but little did she know she was the one that was important.
Exactly. That's the thing that Flynn would have brought out of the universe. He wouldn't have brought. Yeah, he wouldn't have brought that
else.
information.
Just her.
Just her. And Flynn knew that, so he was like, she can't be captured, like, because we can't leave without her, like, like that's, or else all of this was for nothing. And so they devise a plan to get her back and to get the disc back, and kind of like fake out Clue on like what they're trying to do. But Clue has artillery. He has these new light jets that we've never seen before,
which was fire.
Those were super cool. Fire. That was one of my favorite parts too, when they were like all in the air fighting and trying to get away. Also, the little train. The train is also a reference from the first one.
That's true. Yes.
When he connects them with his abilities or something.
And the cool spaceship that they go into, where like it was like the end of line with the train. And Clue, the end of line was great, but it was actually the spaceship that Sark had.
Yes,
that was following him. It was the same type, it was the same thing, and they were going along that beam. And this is at the time where we get the satisfaction of realizing who Rinsler is. And with Rinsler,
I knew it was him.
I knew too. But just hearing the confirmation of Flynn saying, "Tron, what did they do to you?"
Yeah,
it was like, yo, like, oh my goodness, that's crazy.
Yeah, at that part, Tron kind of like had his own like
realization
or connection, or pretty much broke out of the spell and was like, "What am I doing? Like, I'm not.
I fight for the users."
Yeah,
that was cool.
And Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's what it was like, man. It was like he got saved again.
Yeah.
We love you, Tron.
So at this point, Tron kind of like does like a loop to try to like pretty much jackknife Clue, and he pretty much tries to save Flynn again, and he does. He crashes into him and they're falling into the sky, and Tron remembers, I guess, that he has another light cycle, and he tries to pull it out, but Clue sees it and he goes after it, and they're fighting in the air.
Mm-hmm.
He takes the cycle from him, and Clue manages to escape. And this is when Tron, this is where my theory kicks in. Tron falls into the water or the energy. And he kind of turns back into his blue self. And after that, we don't really see him. But kind of like fast forwarding later, pretty much Sam.
They get to the end. They get to the beam, and basically Flynn has to reabsorb Clue in order to prevent him from
pretty much the whole grid.
Yeah.
Pretty much the whole grid to sacrifice it all. He pretty much tells Flynn. He tells Clue. He apologizes to him. He's like, "I'm sorry. I try to create you to create the perfect world, but perfection is always there. Like that's what humans are. Like there's no perfection, but it's always in front of us." And Clue didn't understand that, so he had to destroy him. He destroys him. Sam goes back with Cora. The last ISO, pretty much to reshape or change humanity. And yeah, that's the end. Like pretty much Clue destroys the world, but I feel like the whole world isn't destroyed. It was just a city. So that's why I feel like Tron is still alive.
I agree.
Yeah.
So I think Tron is still alive, and the tidbit about the water, like that would be because Tron has had that water before.
Yes.
You know, so for him to get re-energized and back to his old self and back powered up, I think that would make a lot of sense, you know, for Tron, it's just far as like getting back to it. Now, I don't know if his face is messed up because they never showed it.
Yeah, they didn't.
Know? So I'm thinking that he probably has like a scar, like how you saw when in the beginning of the movie when Sam got picked up. And he was next to another program that had a hood on, and then when the program looked at him and growled, it was like half of his face was gone.
Yeah, it's all pixelated.
I feel like that's the case with Tron, where like half of his face is kind of gone.
Yeah, because you hear at the beginning, you hear Clue hit him, but it doesn't show.
It doesn't show where he hit him or like what happened. You know,
as far as we know, half of his face. Half of his face.
You know, so I think that would be really dope, and the fact that like Sam brought Cora out into the system and into the real world, it's like, well, what is she now? Is she automatically human now, or is it like that her antibodies are so pure now that like they can solve anything, or like what is?
Yeah, that's what I don't understand either. But I mean, I don't really know if there was it wouldn't be a part 2, it'd be a part 3, obviously. I don't even know what the storyline would be. You know, like yeah, there's Cora still and probably Tron, but what would even be the storyline? Like, who would be the villain? Is there going to be another
Dillinger,
MCP?
bro? I have a theory. It would be Dillinger, right?
You're right.
So
I didn't think of that.
Sam coming out, it would basically be another 20-year gap, I think. Like, and it'd basically be Sam and Cora coming out, and then the world is changed with Cora because of like medicine is now changed.
Right.
Medicine has just completely revolutionized. We're in the future. People aren't getting sick anymore. All this other stuff. There's companies that are doing all this, but people don't really know that the source of it is like a captured Cora. You know, like a Cora that's hooked up to all these machines and all this other stuff. And Sam could have been killed, or Sam could be like lost somewhere, or like, you know, transported. And I think Dillinger would be in charge of that new company, you know, utilizing all of this stuff, and you can bring in a new protagonist to kind of like figure it out. And like, or you could bring Tron out of the grid into the real world.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
If the grid were to come out into the real, or Ed Dillinger happened to make his own grid or bring it into the world. So Sam has to go get Tron out of the other grid and bring him and save. You know, that would be really cool. That actually would be really cool. Somebody hit up Disney right now.
All right. Oh, hold on. Let me get him on the phone.
Nah, bro, they're tapped in already. What do you mean?
I hope so. Like something like either a show or, because I mean, after seeing these movies back to back, like you really get a feel for it more. You really understand more.
Yes.
You get into it a little bit more. And then like when I first saw Tron, it was like I was into it, but not as into it as I was now because I didn't understand it as much.
Me too. I really enjoy the lore that they have, and I think that they can expand on it a lot more.
I just want a reason to call it the Chronicles.
Oh my God.
So what do you guys
don't pay him, Disney? If you're listening, don't pay him.
So if y'all call it the Chronicles, I need at least 20%.
So what do you guys give these two movies? You know, we've
the original. If I were to watch it in 1980, I would give it like a 6.5.
I'd probably be generous and give it a 7 in the 80s, but now I would probably give it a 5.
Now I'd give it like a 5.
Yeah. For what we expect out of movies, I think I'm around there too. Maybe like a 6. Yeah, like a 6.5, something like that. The new one, I give that like a 8. Yeah, an 8.5.
Yeah. Just for me, 7.
They really cared about everything that happened.
Yeah.
It's just because I think I've yet to see it for the potential that Tron could be, like market wise.
Yeah.
Like the brand of it could be so much more. Because like they have Tron bikes and like gameplay inside Grand Theft Auto now, and I'm just like, yo, why hasn't Tron made its own video game yet where you could do the same exact thing?
Yeah, you know what I mean? They have the actual motorcycles now. Like you can like functioning ones.
Build one like that.
Yeah. I want one. You know, like that would be fire.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we'll have to wait to see, you know.
Well, rumor is that for Disney Plus that they are planning on doing a Tron show for Disney Plus.
Okay. All right.
So we'll see.
We'll
see how it goes. Yeah. But this is great, guys. So original versus remake, who wins?
Remake.
Yeah.
It's also one of those rare occurrences where the sequel's better than the original.
Yeah.
Yeah. It improved on the original like tenfold.
I just want to know, like, I know why they call it Tron, but at the same time, he's not even the main character.
He's a supporting character.
Tron.
Yeah.
He's like the glue, but it's like, but also you can't just call the movie Flynn.
Like, I feel like they should have just called it Space Paranoids.
Or the Grid. Yeah. Tron is a really cool name.
Just Grid would be dope.
I really like the name Tron and the aesthetic of the title, and it's a cool marketing point.
Yeah, growing up without even like watching a movie, I'm just like, oh, the motorcycles with the lights in the back. So that's literally what I perceive Tron to be.
Yeah, a video game, but really the whole movie isn't really about a video game. So it's cool though.
That's another thing. We should have already had a video game, like a legit video game of Tron.
I'm pretty sure there is. If I look it up, I'm pretty sure there is, but it's probably trash.
Have you guys ever played Kingdom Hearts?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't remember which Kingdom Hearts it is, but you can go into the Tron. You can go into the Grid. So I thought that was really cool in Kingdom Hearts, you know. Obviously, they've still been using Tron in video games like that and stuff. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and you got a Keyblade for that one that you went to in the Grid. Yes. So that was really cool. I believe it was Kingdom Hearts 1.
I want to play Kingdom Hearts now.
Oh, man.
And even in that, Kingdom Hearts, Tron hadn't even come out yet. So it was cool how they made the Grid look in Kingdom Hearts.
That's true.
And it was very similar to the new Tron Legacy.
Right. Yeah. I can see them taking some aesthetic cues from that and utilizing it in this movie. So just shout out to the visual effects team. Like they had their work cut out. Yeah.
I was gonna say shout out Jeff Bridges. He did really good in both movies, you know, for what he had like presented to him. Like he did really well, especially in the 80s when a movie like this, you know, I feel like wasn't really thought about a lot.
Right.
So
it seems like a risky movie.
Yeah. So the fact that they were able to execute it and Jeff Bridges was still able to keep his stardom, like pretty much 20 years, 40 years later or whatever, it's really
even more so because prior to that movie, the last movie he was in was Iron Man.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
You know, and that was in 2008. And then this came out in 2010. So he was at the height again, like a new height. So it was genius. It was genius.
Last tidbit, I could be tripping, but is the timeline off as far as like when, because the movie came out in 82, but the first one, it doesn't specify what year it's in. But it kind of just talks about the 80s. But in 1989, in the second one, Sam's 12. So it's like,
it did seem a little off. I was wondering about that. I was like, wait, is he 7 when they're talking to him, or is he 12? Like,
but then it says his mom died in 1985, so it's like, okay, it's just weird. It's just weird timing.
It's weird. But one more thing that I want to just kind of like a little joke, that when they were on the train, Sam and his dad were talking, and he was like, all right, I want to ask you questions now. How is it out there? And he's like, it's cool. We got Wi-Fi. We got cell phones. He's like, Wi-Fi?
What's Wi-Fi?
Wi-Fi. He's like interlinking with technological devices. And he's like, I thought of that in 82. I was like, shut your ass.
Yeah, you didn't think of that, you smart ass nigga. No, you didn't think of none of that.
I thought that was so that was probably like the one thing that really made me laugh in the movie.
Yeah.
Because I was like, man, shut up.
Just the way he said it. Thought of that in 85 and just left it at that.
It's like, all right, fam. So you
get it, you're a genius.
You tell, it's like without you, like our world is just like we don't have as much technologically advanced.
So we trash without you. You Tony Stark.
Okay, all right, word. That's funny.
But it was a good movie. I liked it.
I enjoyed it too.
We were able to talk about it. I'm excited to do more remakes versus originals. So there's a lot. You know, I think you mentioned one earlier, Sincere, Indiana Jones. That one would be cool. That would be cool. Ones, so we'd probably have to just pick 1 and 2. Well,
I mean,
probably the newest one and the oldest one.
There's a lot of like Steven Spielberg ones that have originals and remakes that
we definitely have to watch the
Park.
The It series compared to the new It movies.
Yeah, we'll do that.
That would be cool.
October, come Halloween.
Yeah,
I like that. So yeah, we're going to be doing a lot more of these segments, guys. We really hope that you guys enjoyed this. We enjoyed the process and the things that we had to talk about. And yeah, there's going to be more to come. We have a couple different segments as well that we'll be doing. So it won't always be original versus remake. We have a couple ideas that we've been working on. And again, this podcast is powered by Productive Culture. Definitely reach out to Productive Culture for any of your podcasting needs. Reach out to JMCam personally and figure out what you guys can do and let them know that Soundflick Podcast sent you. And I think that's about it.
Yeah, that's it. We're gonna play a song by the homie Cam Gnarly off his new project, 333 Hertz, or as he calls it, 333 HZ.
Yes, sir.
This track is called Bigger Things.
Yep. And don't forget to go to productiveculture.com/podcast.
Don't stress, don't bitch, don't trip, don't slip, cause we focused on bigger things. Hey, got goals, got soul, gotta live by the code, cause we focused on bigger things. Yeah, no foes, no hoes, no slows, gotta grow, cause we focused on bigger things. Yeah, we focused on bigger things. Yeah, we focused on. You the bigger picture, I can see beyond the frame now. On my Mac shit, like the backwards make my name sound. Can't main acting, this is really how it is now. I ain't waiting, dog, I really gotta win now. I don't even take time to put the pen down. I stay in the mode, gotta keep the muse round. I stay 10 toes, work and keep my head down. Gotta keep the grass mowed, haters on the hideout. FOMO, divas taking photos with his new doors open when sun closed. And I had tried to keep us but the season teaches where we're going, everybody can go. Oh no, don't stress, don't bitch, don't trip, don't slip, cause we focused on bigger things. Hey, got goals, got soul, gotta live by the code, cause we focused on